I'll see what I have on my
Welcome to the Lodi Unified School Board, September 6th, 2016 meeting. Roll call, all members are present here tonight. And we just met them last time, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we have two of our favorite new reps here with us. We have Ms. LeGarrette from Lodi High School. Welcome. And we have Mr. Stallworth from McDare High School. So thank you for coming here tonight. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ms. LeGarrette, would you please lead us today?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. LeGarrette. Report from closed session. The placement of non-public school students 2016 to 17. Mr. Nava motion and Mr. Neely second, and the board approved the placement of 2016/17 non-public school students number 73, 74, and 75 by the vote of 7-0. In personnel matters, Mr. Neely motion and Mr. Womack second, and the board approved the appointment of Brian Beathard as high school assistant principal, McNair High School, effective date August 24th, 2016 by the vote of 7-0. Also in personnel matters, Mr. Nava motion and Mr. Talkin second, and the board approved the appointment of Lindsay Woodle Streeter as elementary vice principal at Beckham and Westwood Elementary Schools, effective date to be determined by the vote of 7-0. And that concludes closed session matters. Superintendent's report, Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I have a couple pictures to show you from Oakwood Elementary School. This is the My Books program. This is parents and grandparents learning about reading and the importance of reading and how to share a book with their child, whether they speak English or not, whether they can read or not. We had a good turnout. This is a program that is funded through the God Kids Foundation, as well as Mr. Steve Deedy. You can see the smiles on the faces there. Well, some of the faces. We had a full library. This was focused on second graders, but we happened to be there on Friday when they had their come around the blacktop get together in the morning, and there were lots of kindergarten parents, so we grabbed who we could grab, and they joined us and had a good time sharing books with their children. You can see Dad there with his daughter, and it was a good time. So thank you to Got Kids and to Steve Deedy for that. Also want to share with you that the 9th Annual College and Career Planning Night was a huge success. So I know some of you were there. There were over 100 organizations represented, including colleges, universities, trades, branches of the military, and some local businesses, as well as public service agencies. 2 gyms were full at Bear Creek, as well as the theater. For the first time, we offered financial aid presentations and some information about out-of-state college applications in that process. There were 2 information sessions, and they were very well received by parents and families. Over 1,500 people attended, if not much more than that. The majority being from the secondary division, but we had all ages there. It was nice to see families come with all children there. There was a lot of good buzz in the air, and I want to thank everyone who's involved in planning that. Cindy Metler, Randy Melandro, Kim Collier, their committee, M&O staff, the staff at Bear Creek. Everyone did a great job putting that together. Another successful night. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing. I now declare open the public hearing on Resolution 2016-52, Sufficiency of Instrumental Materials. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Yes. Yes, come on. I'm sorry, Sue.
Oh, that's okay.
Welcome.
Good evening, Susan Heckerly, and obviously this is always one of my things that I look at, and so as you're getting ready to approve it, are you sure?
This is just a public hearing.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that you're saying for sure that we have sufficient materials before we approve it and send it to the state as a document.
Yeah, thank you. I made the same observation when I went through the agenda over the weekend. And there's actually an action item that has the materials and the update, and it's a little bit further on in the agenda. So
okay, I just think that having enough instructional materials is an important thing, important enough that we make sure that when we send in a document that it's accurate.
Very good. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? And with that, I will close the public hearing. Comments from the public. We have a 20-minute time period set aside for the public to address the board of items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. but is welcome to distribute any members to the board and or staff. Due to the restrictions imposed by the California Brown Act regarding discussing topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about the issues. I have a couple cards here today. I have Ann Suela Garcia. Welcome.
Hi, Ann Suela Garcia. I live in Stockton, and I'm a parent of an current alum, a parent of an 8th grader at Krista McCullough, and an employee at Julia Morgan. So I was asking, when I'm not here, and when I'm not at work, and when I'm not with my family, I teach for Teachers College of San Joaquin. I work with interns. And we only have one in my current class that's a Lodi intern. And I know we don't really hire interns, but we're missing a lot of great people. So I was thinking, what attracts people to come to Lodi? Why do they want to come here? And so I put it out there for my peers on our union Facebook page. And the first thing they said, what makes you want to be a teacher and what attracts you to Lodi are the kids and the families. A healthy and clean environment, that's what they're looking for. No mold, no insects, no vermin. Competitive salaries for new teachers, no combo classes, small class size, supportive administration. I have one of those. He's amazing, Michael Coughlin. If you don't work at Julia Morgan, you should, because he's amazing. He comes to us and asks us questions. He gets our insight. He gives us time to do things like 8 Keenan videos, or how many Keenan videos we have to watch? Many. Ridiculous amount of, crazy. And one of them was about Clorox wipes, and I didn't mention Clorox wipes, but that's another day. Being treated with respect, acknowledged as a professional. Reasonable paperwork. I'm going to be doing 6 to 8 individual ELD assessments every week for my students, on top of my 11 one-on-one assessments that I'll be doing for my 22 to 24 students this year. That's a lot of time in my class. Classroom assistants. We'd love to have parents come. The fingerprinting is backed up to probably October now, because then we do fingerprinting 1 day a week. So then I'm not going to have parent help in my kindergarten room. Timely assistance, identifying kids with special needs, especially in lower grades. Appropriate custodial staff. Equity in schools with materials and support. Respect for our time and for our knowledge. Funding for outside experiences. One teacher, her child went to Elkhorn, had all these amazing outside experiences. Why aren't those for the other kids at other schools? The last things people mentioned were benefits and money. Only mentioned once. Once for benefits, once for salary. I think if you treat us as professionals and come to us and say, what do you know? I've been doing this for 27 years. I know something. I don't know everything, but I know a lot of people that know a lot of things. And I feel like if someone sat down and gave an assessment to a kid, how we do it would be done completely differently. Thank you.
Thank you for those very nice comments. Next, we have Dave Hurley. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. President Freitas, members of the board, Dr. Walker. My comments this evening are regarding the status of long-term substitutes remaining in their current classroom assignments this school year. I've heard that our long-term substitutes will be moved at some point during the school year to protect the best interests of the students, specifically job rights. I would submit to you that the best interests of our students reside in what's doing best interests of our district reside in what's doing best for our students. I learned at a previous board meeting that there are 37 long-term substitutes in the district filling in full-time teaching positions. Sutherland Elementary, a persistently underperforming school, currently has 4 long-term subs filling teaching positions, and that represents 11% of the district's total. Out of over 50 school sites within the district, over 1 of 10 of the long-term substitutes have been assigned to a Title I underperforming school, to a single Title I underperforming school. This is less than an ideal situation since our students deserve experienced teachers, but the situation will be made far worse by requiring long-term subs to leave their position sometime during the school year. 3 of our long-term substitutes are currently in teacher education programs at the present time. Of our 4 long-term substitutes, 2 teachers are instructing the intervention program Read 180, despite not receiving training until the 3rd week of the school year. 2 of the 4 are assigned to combination classes at 2-3 and 4-5, and the remainder in grade 6 classes. Despite their lack of experience, I see great potential in all 4 long-term substitutes at our site. They like students. And it's far easier to guide somebody in this profession, as you cannot teach someone to like and appreciate students, particularly students who may not like themselves. It's essential that we collectively find a solution to the long-term substitute situation. To not support these teachers by assuring their ability to remain in the current classrooms without change would be a further disservice to some of the most needy students in our district. Not to mention the teachers that have poured great effort into a very challenging situation. Is there any wonder why we have a hard time finding and retaining teachers? First, we hire them just days before the school year. We leave them with classes no one else wants to teach at schools that few people want to teach. Ask them to work through the crucial first weeks of school in programs without training or providing software licenses, and keep them off balance by a rumor or truth that they'll be moved within the school year. There has to be a solution. So I would suggest that we find it in the best interest of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Mrs. Everly? Welcome, Sue.
Hi. First of all, I want you to know there are a few things like I have never understood. For example, I never understand child abuse. Why would a parent abuse their child? And when there are a lot of people who want to take care of them, I never understood that. I just haven't. So the things that I'm going to say are part of that whole idea of why I don't understand why we would treat our students in a certain way. First of all, our students, our children, whether they're K, 12, any time in there, and they are not numbers on a piece of paper that you can just move around. This year, children were moved in the high schools and the elementary schools. We collapsed classes. We moved teachers. We moved children out of their schools. We told children that they couldn't take certain classes. We still have overcrowded classrooms. And you know what? It's just not okay, because we should treat every child that comes into our district like they're our own child. And you wouldn't want that for your child. So somewhere along the line, we have to make some decisions that say, you know, it's important to have adequate staffing at the beginning of the year. I just have so many people that have told me stories of what has happened to them. And you know, one of the things that is also really important is student safety. So I've told you before, and I have passed out literature from the California safety standards for science laboratory stuff. And so what is the maximum number of students that we're supposed to have? Well, this is something we should all know, right? And if we exceed it, what are the steps that we're supposed to take to mitigate the situation so that our students aren't in harm's way? Again, I know that the staff has that. These are really important issues, and never are the students supposed to be in a situation where they don't have a designated lab space. And that is because they won't have access to eye washes and blankets, and they could be seriously harmed. And that just a very important, those are really important considerations. And somewhere along the line, we need to make sure that our students are in safe conditions. A long time ago, when I was talking to teachers from around the country, and I told them we were talking about our conditions, and they would tell me, oh, it's illegal. Well, it's illegal in their state. It's just recommended not to do in ours. But we should take our children and treat them as though they're the most precious thing that we have, and put them in the safest conditions and provide them with the best materials and appropriate staffing right from the very beginning of the school year, because the first day is an important day in school. for children, even in high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, for those very nice comments. Next on the agenda, we have our action items and consent agenda A, routine business. Any board members wish any items to be pulled? Any members of the public wish any items to be pulled?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve routine agenda A.
Thank you, Mr. Nava, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Womack, for your second. Student vote? Students vote A, aye. Aye, very good. Call for the vote. And motion carries 7-0. Consent. Agenda B, student discipline cases. Thank you, Mr. Neely, for your motion. Thank you. Still haven't said the magic words. You can't second without saying something.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Heatherly, for your second. Students now vote on discipline cases and call for the vote. Do not vote. Thank you. And it carries 7-0. Other action items. We have the approval of Army ROTC Officers, Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, JROTC, for near high school. Ms. Vedeka, and I think you have a guest here tonight. Welcome.
Good evening, President Freitas and members of the board. Way back in 2013, you approved JROTC at McNair High School, and then that fall, once we were getting ready to start it up, the Army decided that they couldn't afford to keep it, so they cut it. We've been waiting for it to come back, and we got notification just the other day that they have brought it back, so we're bringing it back to you to see if this is something, a desire of the board.
Mr. Davis?
It's a program that we've been working on for a long time to bring to McNair High School. It's something that I also have experience with in my past. It gives students just another set of opportunities in which to become connected to our school, to gain citizenship skills, to gain the character ideals that the military often brings. And we've kind of done a little, I don't want to say recruiting because it's really not out there yet, but we've let them know that it's a possibility, and we've already had a lot of kids coming to us saying, yeah, they want in. And we were very fortunate back in 2013. We actually had hired a top sergeant. He had said yes, and an hour later we get a phone call from the Army saying no. Well, that individual, to my understanding, is still available. And so to me, I'm looking at this as just a tremendous opportunity to bring the person that we wanted at the end back in 2013. If he's still willing to come, I think it'd be a great opportunity for a kid. He'd be a tremendous role model. He's a top sergeant, retired in the United States Army. He's been a substitute teacher now for the last couple of years over in the Bay Area. So he's looking to move up, and that's us.
What's a typical day for ROTC look like for the students?
Typical day, they'll come into whichever period they have. One day a week, they have to wear the uniform. Those uniforms are provided by the military at no charge. I was talking with the gentleman from Weston Ranch High School, and he'll be the person who's going to do all that ordering for us until we get whoever we get to be on board. Typical day, they come into class, they start out at attention, and they pretty much go from there. There's a lot of history that they're taught during that time, a lot of civics as far as what we would normally see in a Constitution class or a civics class. They get a lot of that. And so there's also drill. They can receive either physical education credit. I see Mr. Neely smiling. I'm sure he remembers his drill days, so we won't get into that though, right? But yeah, we're not going back there, correct. But there is drill, there is physical training, quite a bit of that. And so there's a couple of ways that they can get credit. One, they can get PE credit. The other one is usually elective credit. And back in 2013, I believe we were going with elective credit.
Mhm. So it works out to be one period a day, and there's also after-school activities and weekends, or?
Absolutely. They're doing service activities. Generally at football games, they will present the flag, they'll present the colors, and withdraw the colors. Any special events that are taking place, oftentimes the drill team is asked to go. A lot of discipline involved, so there is a lot of structure there, which is just another terrific area for our kids to really just show off their talents and their abilities.
Well, I got to tell you, I was really excited about this when it happened in 2013. I was excited every time it was hinted about since, and I'm definitely going to support this tonight. So thank you for coming tonight. Mr. Nava?
Mr. Chairman, wow, what an opportunity that McNair would have to do this. Ideal in respect that you have a block schedule.
Works out well on the
Yeah,
box
it works,
schedule.
excellent. And you're not there 35 minutes and then you change uniform. You have some time there with those people and it's an ideal situation. Leadership, character, pride, I mean, all those things. I've experienced the ROTC. I was in the Air Force, so when I was going to college, of course, it was a mandatory thing when I was going to school in the dark ages. It was mandatory that you take two years of ROTC, and I graduated as a flight commander. So, I mean, I'm very proud of that, and the fact that we have the opportunity to offer this to the high schools. One misconception that some people have is that we're training these people to go into the service. That's not true. Half of them will probably not go. Half of them will be going to college. Half of them will be going to careers and so forth. Maybe a third will have the bug and join the military. So those are the things that I'm concerned about.
Sure, the actual number is less than 10% actually go into the military.
Yes.
So it's not the number that people oftentimes associate with it. Many of the kids, you know, they do their JROTC time and then they go on to different ways of going. In fact, I was talking to Mr. Hearn earlier, and his daughter was in JROTC in Ripon, I believe.
You know, my daughter was the commander of the Ripon Brigade. She did not choose to go into the military. In fact, she teaches English in Wyoming at the middle school right now. Her husband was also in the JROTC. He is a deputy sheriff who gets to patrol Yellowstone National Park at times.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hearn.
Mr. President,
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Mr. Falcon?
I would move approval of this item.
I have a comment.
I think there's some further comments from the board.
That's okay, you can have the motion and a second, and then you can have discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Falcon, for your motion. Ms. Castle?
Okay, I was opposed to this in 2013 and I voted against it, so that it was not unanimous at that time. I oppose it again tonight, even though everyone who's spoken in support of it are my favorite people. So I say that with much liking and respect for all of you. However, I do want to give you my perspective and why, and I have some questions as well. I know that, I guess I didn't know Mr. Nava was, okay, so Mr. Nava, Mr. Davis, and Mr. Neely all have the military experience. Not you, Mr. Davis?
I was never in the military.
Why did I think that, well, okay. So,
Maybe the advanced Boy Scouts, maybe that was it, but no, not.
okay, well then, Ralph? Okay, so there's, all right, I have this mixed up. So, but the point is that you were all, I'll do it that way without names, in the military, which I, of course, respect. So was I. I was in the military for 7 years in a different way that Michelle Obama has finally recognized now, and that is I was the spouse of an Air Force pilot during the Vietnam War. So I am not anti-military. I lived the military, believe me, for 7 years. I lived, we always were living on Air Force bases. It affected me very profoundly because during that war and what my husband was doing in that war as a pilot affected me profoundly because it was so sad. It was a very sad time. So that is very much a part of my perspective. Here's my bottom line. I do not think that children as young as 13, 14, 15 years old I believe that is too young to expose them to what is a form of indoctrination. And I say that because I know that is to be true. There is, I mean, I'm not saying that in a totally negative way, but that comes with the territory of what the Army or any of the military has. It's just part of their protocol. So I base this on the fact that I believe those children are too young to be indoctrinated. There is a reason why you cannot join the military until you're 18 years of age. When you are an adult, when you gain some years where you can think for yourself. And so that truly is why I'm opposed to it. I just believe that those students are too young. But here's my questions, and you answered one of them already, Mr. Davis, I believe. So there's one class with 2 instructors?
No, how it would work would be, we would bring one person on board, and really, we stay with one person until we get over 100 students. If we get under 100 students, then we would start searching for a second instructor. And so they would be teaching, they could be teaching, let's say if we had 60 kids, and we only have 2 classes, or they could be teaching 3 classes starting in January.
So what's the maximum that you're allowing for, maximum number of students?
I'm not sure I have an answer for that, because one of the things we also discussed back in 2013 was the possibility of students from other schools here in Lodi Unified, Bear Creek, Tokay, and Lodi also having an opportunity. So those discussions, I need to have those discussions with Mrs. Zedica to make sure that, how exactly do we want this to fold out in the beginning. Essentially, I think it's going to be folding out or coming out just with McNair. As far as the maximum number, I visited a few ROTC programs over the years. I know Selma, back a few years ago, had one of the best in the country, and they had over 300 students involved. It was a huge program, and I don't know if it still is. It's really open to as many kids who want to go there.
So it could be hundreds, potentially.
Potentially, but when I look at the numbers of our school, I'd be surprised if it was that big.
Okay, all right. And then you've referenced the one individual that would be an instructor. And I'm just wondering, if you try to compare that person's qualifications for teaching with our teachers, the same requirements we have for our teachers, would that person be the same?
I think he has a lot of experience, obviously. As I alluded to earlier, he's been subbing over in the Bay Area for the last 2 or 3 years, ever since 2013. So he's got classroom experience. Having the number of years, and I'm trying to remember exactly how many years that he spent in the Army, but he was a top sergeant. That's a fairly high rank for a sergeant in the Army. And with that comes a lot of experience with leadership, a lot of experience with organization, a lot of experience in leading people. And so I think that is all valuable experience. That's what I remember when we interviewed him back in 2013. He was an individual who I was extremely impressed with.
And how will the students be chosen? What's the criteria? And the age?
That's voluntary. JROTC programs are open from freshmen through seniors. We will start advertising for the program very quickly. I have 2 phone calls that I need to make tomorrow. If the board does vote to bring JROTC in, 1 phone call to personnel, and then the other phone call will be to the person who we had in mind back in 2013.
And does it require parental permission, written permission?
I don't believe so. I don't recall having to do that in the past. I can check on that and get back to you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Further comments from the board? Mr. Neely?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Davis and I have talked about this a couple of times now since this thing was first approved and then it got pulled out from underneath us. And I want to thank you for staying with us and staying on top of it and helping to make this happen. I'm a big advocate of this program, and for a number of reasons. It teaches kids about responsibility. It teaches them a little bit about self-confidence and things that they can do. And as you pointed out, only 10% actually go in the military. But what they take away from the program is incredible. And so, and a lot of this, Mr. Davis, is going to be based on those instructors. So you've got to, just the thing, you've got to watch them and see how they're interacting with those kids. I've known some people who can get power hungry and not handle the class as it should be. It's not boot camp. It's junior ROTC. It's a high school. You know, and so we need to treat them right. And that's one of the things that we need to watch. I am definitely going to support this. There's no doubt about that. I've been waiting for this. I actually talked to Jerry McNerney this summer about why we weren't getting the program. And I don't know if he had anything to do with it or not, but all of a sudden here it is. I'm pretty happy about it. Are the other schools going to get to participate? What's the thought on that?
Yes, we were hoping to be able to open it up to other students to be able to transfer in. The benefit of McNair with the block schedules, they can start January. Whereas other schools can't because of their schedule. So at first it will be McNair students, but eventually, yes.
Oh, that's great. I think it's a chance to work things out before we take it bigger. So I think that's a great idea. And again, thank you very much for sticking with us. I greatly appreciate that, and our students will as well.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Vice President Beverly?
My question has been answered, and that was, when would it start? It sounds like McNair in January. That's the target anyway. And then for the rest of the schools, the start of the year. So then it would be in the course catalog and all that. Okay, very good.
Further comments from the board?
Mr. Freitas,
Yes,
I have a suggestion. If this should pass, can I attach an amendment if it does pass? And that would be, I wish that the parents sign off on this, that the parents have full knowledge. That does not strike me as something that is desirable, that these students could join this type of organization and their parents would not know. So I would like to hopefully add that if this were to pass, that we have parental approval.
Okay, there's been a request for an amendment to require parental notification or approval prior to joining JROTC.
Before they show up at home in uniform.
And that fails for lack of a second. So further comments from the board?
I do want to say that whenever students sign up for any classes, there is a parent signature for all classes on their ballots, so they're supposed to be signed.
So de facto then. Okay, thank you, Ms. Finn.
Even better. Thank you for educating us on that. Mr. Womack.
Thank you, President Freitas. Just a few comments. When this came up the first time, I was wholeheartedly in favor of it, and I remain in favor of it for a number of reasons. And Ms. Cass, I have extreme respect for you, you know that. The only difference of opinion on this is that I was 18 when I went into service, and I really didn't have a clue even at 18. They might have called me an adult, but I didn't have a clue. And what really helped me at 18 was going into the military, and I got shipped off to Vietnam and what have you, so that's a different story. But I mean, as far as learning responsibility and accountability and being on time and pride in your work and teamwork and what have you, that's where I learned that. And it kind of leads me into something I want to talk more about during our comments when I talk about the Discovery Challenge Academy that's coming to Sharp Depot. And those are 16 to 18-year-olds. And these are kids who need the structure, and we already know they need the structure. And they are dropouts. So those are second chance dropouts, or those that are so credit deficient that they will not graduate. So it's one more opportunity for them to get some of the structure they currently do not have. And I think that is probably the strongest thing about ROTC and JROTC is that it provides structure and teamwork and what have you. So I really fully support this, and we'll talk about the Challenge Academy more when we have comments.
Thank you, Mr. Womack. Fortunately, we have two students here tonight that can give us their opinions on this, one from McNair and one not from McNair. So who wants to go first? Quite the joke.
I think it's kind of a cool opportunity for a lot of kids because I know a lot of kids who aren't interested in necessarily the college path. And I think this is an alternative for them. I do think that it is a big decision to make when you're only 13 or 14 years old to just get into that kind of program. And I know they're not saying that they're going to be in the military, just to be exposed to that kind of stuff it's a lot, I think, for any child to take on, especially at that age. But at the same time, it does offer a lot of different opportunities for kids. And I think there's so many kids out there who aren't going to college because it's just not something that's available to them, or they just simply do not want that. And I think that's a really good idea to get them just understanding of what that kind of pressure it is to be in the military, or that commitment that it is to be in the military at a young age, so they can kind of see if they're interested in that or not.
So you'd be in favor of it coming to Lodi in the future?
Yeah, I think that'd be a cool idea. I think a lot of kids would be interested in that for sure.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Stallworth?
I agree that the program would be a great program to have at McNair. It will help them just be involved in like the military field, see if they're interested in it. So I think that the students will be able to benefit from having the program, and it helps them decide that if they want to go in the military, that they can go into the military with some kind of like understanding of how it operates and what they'll be dealing with. So I would agree that it's a great program to have.
And you'd say that even if Mr. Davis wasn't here, right?
Yes.
Very good. Well, thank you for those comments and that insight. So, comments from the public? Yes, Mr. Hurley? Okay, thanks. Go ahead. Okay,
Mr. Freitas, members of the board, Dr. Washer, I have no opinion on the program, but I just would like to remind you that McNair High School cut the sections of Avid from 7 to 5 this year. And I find it interesting that we're adding a new program when we've got another. If you were to ask me, where would I prefer my 6th grade students to go into Avid or into a military program? Most certainly I'd like to see them go into Avid. So this is a fine program, but we need to bring those sections back as well. So adding something now, it seems to be a little bit strange based on the fact that we cut and had to move students to other places. Thank you.
Other comments from the public? Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you please state your name for
Yes.
the minutes, please?
I'm from McNair, and I'm Chanel Tatch, and I'm also the ASB Vice President.
Chanel?
Yes.
And your last name is?
Tatch.
And how do you spell that?
THACH.
Perfect.
Yes. So I go to McNair as well, and then I work under Michael, and I think that JROTC is a really great program for our students because as McNair, we are very diverse, and a lot of our students don't really partake in like the academically driven programs and stuff like AVID. Like it is there, but then I don't think they are as interested as it would be for JROTC because we have HOSA as well, which is like a health academy kind of thing. And then I think this JROTC will be a great way to expose these students to newer and bigger opportunities that are very diverse as well. And I also like learned in a lot of my classes that being pressured into just being academically like driven and to be going to college after high school is like a really big thing. But then I also think that students should be able to be part of bigger opportunities, which would lead them to be successful as if you were to be in college as well. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you for those wonderful comments. Yes.
Mr. Hurley's comments.
Yes.
Did we cut AVID, 2 sections of AVID at McNair? And the second part of that is, do we have students who want AVID who are not able to get it?
If you recall, we added a lot of new courses at McNair High School. And so by adding a lot of new courses, it puts students in a place where they then have to make some choices. Okay. When we looked at the signups were down a little bit for AVID, and so we went ahead and we dropped the 2 classes.
Okay, so do we have students who want AVID that can't get it?
to my knowledge, the students who wanted to be an Avid, we made sure they were an Avid. Now, there may have been a couple choices where students weren't able to get into an Avid class because they wanted to take astronomy more.
So it's a student choice.
Absolutely.
Mr. Neely, members of the board, I want to remind you that at the high school level, there are requirements to get into Avid. So that comes into play as well. It's a little different than the other grades.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hurley is shaking his head.
Yeah, my understanding was you collapsed an 11th grade class and the 11th graders had to be transferred into other programs. That was my understanding. It sounds very different than the answer I just heard. Is that the case, Mr. Davis?
Not to my knowledge, no, it's not. I know that our numbers were down. Our counselors, I know, pulled in our Avid students and told them, our Avid teachers even stated that they would be willing to take larger numbers as far as our teachers. Some of the kids decided to go in different directions.
I don't know, I think we should research that a little bit more.
Members of the board, just point of order that this is not on the agenda. It's getting into an Avid conversation.
It is.
Somebody asked me a question, so I responded. I was asked the question by the board president.
You were. And thank you, Mr. Hurley. So, Ms. Neely?
Fine, I've got my answer.
We got our answers. And even though it's not on the agenda, we're not talking about it, but you'll make a second effort that if there's any students that need Avid and on student care, you'll make sure that they
absolutely
have that opportunity to shoot right away. Mm-hmm. Of course. Further comments from the public back to the issue? Welcome, Michelle.
Just a clarifying question. I think Ms. Castle asked it in part about qualifications for the teaching position. I understand they're not certificated, but they have experience in the field. And you said that the person you were thinking of for the position had been subbing. Will they need to meet the requirements of like a CTE teacher?
They have to have a bachelor's degree. They have to have that, and they will have to get their credential if they don't already have it.
Okay.
Okay. So
Or they could get a designated subject credential.
Correct.
Exactly like.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Further comments from the board? Further comments from the public? All right, we have a motion, and Mr. Culkin motion, and Mr. Nada second, I believe, to, well, thank you for the compliment. So with no further discussion, call for the student vote? Aye. Aye, thank you, and call for the board vote. And the motion carries 6-1. You have the board's direction. Make 2 phone calls tomorrow morning, first thing, and I think order a lot of extra uniforms because I think this is going to be a program that's going to take off. So thank you very much for bringing this to us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next action item is a resolution of 2016-52, sufficiency of instructional materials. Ms. Kotowski, welcome.
Thank you.
President Bendis, members of the board, we're bringing to you sufficiency of instructional materials. During the second week of school, I believe, we had several teams of administrators coming from the County Office of Education visiting a large number of our schools, 15 or so schools. And from their visit and check, they have indicated that we have sufficient instructional materials.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Kotowski. Comments from the board? Vice President Heberly.
Thank you. On the printout information sheet that came along with this agenda item, on the 7-8 textbooks for core curriculum, I noticed that for CMP math and Read 180, there it says adoption cycle NA, not applicable. So they have no textbooks?
No, they have their textbooks.
Okay, what is the NA?
That's a good. They should have been with the Read 180, it's our replacement core that we had when we adopted it, should have been that date of adoption, and CMP, it should have also been the date of when the district adopted it.
Okay, so this needs to be adjusted before it gets shipped off?
You mean like our software malfunction on that other one?
I'm just saying, if it says that it's not applicable when actually we did, then it needs to reflect what we did. One or the other.
We will adjust it.
Thank you.
But we do have textbooks for CNC. Kind of reading the resolution of this, the very first part of it, it says that not included as a condition of funding for textbooks, but required for inclusion in the resolution is health, foreign language, and science laboratory equipment. So I get what they're talking about when they're saying textbooks. They want to make sure that every child has equal access to textbooks. That's my assumption. That's how I read it. Is that how we read it? Yes. Okay. The problem I have is the whole sufficiency of instructional materials. Okay. I guess the question could be then for anybody is, do you believe that we have sufficient instructional materials in every class, which instructional materials is not only textbooks, but it says right at the very end of it, you know, they're talking about laboratory science equipment. And if we're talking about our mission statement where we're going to ensure that our students have what they need to be successful, I would submit to you that even though it says laboratory science equipment was available, yeah, it was available, was what they need for the current status of what is required for CP, AP, college, or whatever. I think if anybody were honest, they'd say, no, it's not sufficient, because we do not have a lot of the equipment and materials that are in fact important for our kids to advance and be successful in whatever their next course in life is. So while I get the part about the textbooks, and really that's the only part that we're worried about with the funding, because that it's tied to textbook money, I just can't go along and say that we have sufficient science laboratory materials, because in fact I know we do not. And so even though I don't have a problem with the textbook part of it, saying that we have science equipment available, well, yeah, but it's under sufficient. It is not sufficient. So therefore I will be voting no on this, because if it's lumped under that heading, that category on this resolution, I believe that it is not truthful, so I will be voting against it.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Everly. Further comments from the board? Comments from the public?
Freitas, I move we approve resolution.
I have one question.
Oh.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ann.
Sure, I know you're happy to see me. We have students at Bear Creek that are amazing. As students, my daughter is at Sarah Lawrence College, just took her 2,882 miles away. A lot of her friends are going to UCs. They don't have the lab stuff they need. They're going to UCs and they're not prepared because they don't have the supplies. It's not the teachers. The teachers are amazing and awesome and incredible. I wouldn't send my kid to another high school, nothing personal. They don't have what they need. Mr. Heavily knows that. His son's one of those great teachers. They don't have the materials they need, and to say that because they have the textbooks, they have it, it's not fair. It's one of those equitable things people are talking about as teachers. They don't have what they need. We've got money sitting in Measure L, and it's sitting there, and it's sitting there, and it's sitting there, and it's supposed to go to these kind of things. There's money in the budget, it goes here, I don't know where it goes. because now it's under LCAP fund. We need to get those kids up to speed so they don't go to a UC and people say, oh, first they say, oh, you're from Stockton, and they roll their eyes, and which we get some of that in our own community. Then they don't have the experience. We want to send the best kids out there with the best things that they have. There are kids at UCSD, there are kids at Davis, there are kids at UCLA, there are kids at Berkeley. We need to send them ready to go. They need to have the materials. So if you're voting yes, then you haven't been into a science classroom at high school to see what they have.
Very good. Thank you, Ann. Further comments from the public? Going once? Yes.
I have many students that are at the UCs, so ditto.
Very good, thank you. Further comments from the public? Further comments from the board?
I have a question, Dr. Washer.
Yes.
Is there any legal implications on whether this passes or doesn't pass?
Yes, yes, there are. Ms. Duffy?
If we do not pass, the last date for our passing our resolution of this would be at our very next board meeting. So we will have some consequences of not passing this resolution.
And you know what they are?
I have not wanted to inquire into that matter to know what those exactly are because we have passed our resolution. I'm sorry.
Is it a reduction in funding for this district? It sounds like it as I read this.
Oh. I don't believe that it's a reduction in funding, but there could be some other sanction from the State Department. This is a settlement, the Williams lawsuit, so this is part of that settlement. So if districts don't meet that requirement, we're violating the settlement agreement. Mr. Hearn, have you had experience with a district not passing this?
I've never had a district that hasn't passed it, but I believe it becomes an oversight of the State Department of Education taking the ability away from the board.
Thank you. Yes, Vice President Hadley.
So I understand that it is kind of a sticky wicket, so to say. The problem comes in is if we're saying that we have sufficient materials when we know in fact that we don't, when we're talking about the lab science classes. And I think you kind of get it that I get close to science. So stop laughing. So that puts people in a really tough spot when if we're going to, how many years has this come up? So far, 5 out of 5. So at what point do then we say, you know what, really? We've got to do something about the sufficiency of science materials in our district. I guess that's my comment. It still puts us in a bind where if you vote for it, when you know in fact that there are not sufficient materials, who would vote for that? So, like I said, the only resolution to something like this is that next time during the year, we don't put people in a tough spot where they have to say, yeah, we're worried about sanctions and repercussions, but we're just going to pass it anyway, and hopefully nobody really kind of looks at it. Because I understand how Williams Act people do their evaluation. They pick a school and judge all the schools based on one school. Which high school was it this year? Was it McNair again?
It's always McNair.
I know that. So there's the problem. So we do, if we say we could do sufficient materials at McNair, we're in Mike Flint. But that's just not morally right. Now you know where I stand, right?
Thank you. Further comments from the board, Ms. Castle?
Dr. Washer, I have a question. It seems like quarterly we get these Williams resolutions where we are asked that there's that form that all the schools fill out, and we have gotten like A+ reports. And is that including instructional materials as well? Because we have a long history of getting an A+ on those reports.
Yes, it includes instructional materials.
Okay, so then I would, for me, I mean, we have been passing those And each school must produce their report. Is that true? Or how does?
Yes, they are reporting on the number of complaints that they have received during that period, so that's what you're looking at.
And there's never any complaints. That's what we are, what we see before us quarterly. There are no complaints. So for me, we have a long history of getting A+ on these reports. So to me, and this includes all instructional materials. And so I will certainly vote yes on this based on the history of what we've been shown for years in regards to this.
Thank you, Ms. Kessler.
I'm puzzled, okay? I'm really puzzled because at the end of your report here, it says where sufficient textbooks or instructional materials were provided to each student in grades 9 through 12 enrolled in foreign language and health classes, and whereas laboratory science equipment was available for science laboratory classes offered in grade 9 through 12 inclusive. I mean, this is a true statement, isn't it?
It's a true statement for the documentation and the school that they visited, so they're verifying from that school that they had sufficient materials.
So if I hear, I said, well, there's no materials, all materials available, I can't go that route. I'm going about what the presentation of the San Joaquin County Board of Education has told you, and that is the case right here. So I'm for it.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Do you have a motion?
Yes, I move to be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Nava, for your motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Neely, for your second. Student vote?
Nay.
Thank you. We have one aye and one nay. And call for the board vote as to the resolution regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials. And it carries 6-1. Ms. Kotowski, we have the reapproval of the 2016-19 LCAP.
The monthly approval.
Yeah, it's, by this time, we should know the LCAP in and out. I have to apologize for bringing this forward to you again. Unbeknownst to us, when we printed our LCAP from the software system that we use into a PDF file, it omitted a couple of sections. And so our first LCAP that we approved had a section missing, and the second LCAP that we approved had a separate section omitted. And so the county is requesting that you approve this one with all its pieces included. So I agree.
We have to turn it all in, all of our homework?
All together. Not bits and pieces, so I apologize, but that's what this is about.
And we have a motion from Mr. Womack to approve, followed by a second from Mr. Nava. Mr. Everly.
The only question is, have we fixed the software?
We are working, okay, who would like to ask that?
The software is provided by the county.
That's beautiful. Mr. Hurd, I'm not doubting that for a second. So is it logical to assume that other districts within the county are experiencing the same difficulty?
It is logical, I don't know.
Okay, I have no problem.
Further comments from the board? Comments from the public? Call for the vote, student vote?
Aye.
Thank you, we have 2 ayes. And call for the board vote as to the reapproval of the 2016-19 LCAP plan. And the motion carries 7-0. Personnel matters, Mr. McKilligan.
Mr. President, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Neely, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Talkin, for your second. Mr. McKilligan, I see that we have a Burrell, Kristen Burrell, that looks to be rejoining us. So give her our sincerest welcome should this be passed. There's no student vote on personnel matters. So call for the board vote. And please welcome back 7-0, the motion carries. Communications. Comments are from our student representatives. Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Thank you, Ms. LeBaron. How are things at Lodi High?
Things are doing good at Lodi High. We are, it's very busy right now. We have been really working on homecoming right now in student government. We also have been focusing on our TRL program, which I mentioned last time, which is our freshman orientation program. We have been meeting, we actually had a meeting today for those leaders after school, and we will be having a freshman meeting tomorrow. In the past, we have always wanted to continue the program throughout the year, but this is the first year that we're really buckling down and doing it. We have really great supervisors in charge of that. So we will be talking with the freshmen tomorrow during our SSR period, just seeing how they're doing, what we can do to help them, just making them feel really welcomed at this school, and just because it is hard to be a freshman, especially when you are coming into such a large school. We also, for the freshmen who are having difficulties, whether it's in class or with just studies or whatever, we will be calling them out during the SSR period with their TRL leader to just discuss what we can do to help them, after school programs they can get involved in, what they can do to just get back on track and to realize that, you know, freshman year, it is important for a lot of students. Fall sports are in full force, which is very exciting. I just got done with water polo practice, so that's it's going. We have a game actually against Bear Creek tomorrow. We start league matches for golf, starts the 13th. For water polo, it's the 22nd, and for tennis, it's the 22nd as well. We have our first home football game on Friday, which is very exciting for us. We're hoping to get a big turnout and just get people excited for the start of football season. That's always very exciting at our school. We are also enacting a new program brought in by student government. I have a cousin who uses this program at her school, and it's really just a cool thing to do. It's Student Teacher of the Month. So every month we will be choosing a different student and teacher from different areas of the campus, like we'll do ag students and teachers, English, and so forth. And so we are working on getting those selected for the month of September, which is very exciting, just to give extra recognition to people who are standing out among our campus. Regarding homecoming, it is the 23rd of September, so it's coming up pretty soon. We are getting very excited. We usually just do a queen and king for the senior class, but this year we are expanding it to get more of the campus involved by doing prince and princesses for the freshman, sophomore, and junior. So that'll be very exciting for them, just to feel like they have a little bit more involvement and get more spirited about the entire event, because it's usually just a senior thing. Spirit days are coming, and we are going to be decorating our golf carts on campus for our campus supervisors to just have more spirit around campus, put crowns and all that kind of stuff. So we've been working on that a lot, making lots of posters, that sort of thing. For school-wise, academically, we have our PSAT/SAT prep course coming, which is getting a lot of buzz around campus, just because it's very important for our students to have those opportunities. I know a lot of students who are going to be involved in that course and who are going to be preparing for those tests coming up. We have a speech tournament coming up on the 17th, which a lot of the time that doesn't get as much recognition, but it should, because it's very cool. Those kids put a lot of work and time into that, in some cases sport, most people would call it. And that's, we had our blood drive, which was a really big success last week. I donated, it was fantastic. We had awesome people in our student government who were in charge of that. Matt Orgon was one of those people, and he did a great job enacting that and getting that going, and we really got a lot of support from the students, parents, everyone was out there, and we did really, really well. So I just want to say, let our high student get. So, thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mr. Nava.
Yeah, I just have a question, Neil. Of course. You have two practices in water polo, don't you?
Yeah.
Early in the morning and in the afternoon?
Girls don't have early morning practices normally, so that's nice. But we do have some girls who will go to the boys' practices in the morning, so yeah, it's a lot, but.
You have a good team, I understand.
Yeah, we have a good team this year, so we had a really good team for the boys last year, so we'll see how they do, but yeah.
Follow suit.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great team.
Yes, it is.
Lodi Sierra. Sierra
Yeah.
is section champions for Division
Yeah.
4 or something. So we better do well since we're Division 1. Okay?
I hope so. We need it. Our boys
Is
need
that a home
it.
game?
Yes, it is a home game.
Perfect. That's
Yeah.
all it's been.
Very good. And let's see, we were talking about Spirit Week is coming up.
Mhm.
What type of events do they do during Spirit Week?
So those are just our dress-up days, and then our lunchtime events. So during Spirit Weeks, we have music and games going on during at lunchtime, which student government people will stay on campus and just kind of get people excited about that. And during our Welcome Back Week, we were very successful in getting people involved. Our rally commissioners at our school did a really, really phenomenal job in getting people to support it. And a lot of time it's just freshmen, sophomore on campus, so they're a little timid. But we had tons of big circles dancing, having a good time, so that was exciting. And then for Spirit Weeks, we have our dress-up days kind of planned out. We have to still propose them to our principal and get them approved, but so far we've kind of decided what we're going for, so.
So if a board member were to show up at Spirit Week and want to dress appropriately, what type of costumes would they wear?
I can tell you what we're planning on doing. We have Fashion Disaster Day one day.
That's every day.
We have Hip Hop versus Country Day.
Okay.
So you can dress up hip hop or country style, whatever you want. We have You So Don't Go Here Day, which is dress up like another school. We have our red/whiteout day, which is our day of our rally. So different classes will be different colors. And then we haven't decided on the last day yet. So we're still deciding on that.
To be announced, top secret.
Yes, to be announced.
Very nice report. Thank you very much. Mr. Stallwood, how are things at McNair?
All is well at McNair. So on Friday, we had the Army come out and they brought the rock wall, and all of the students engaged at both lunches. It was very fun. The cafeteria, they hosted a lunch, and it was burritos, chicken and beef burritos. So that was a great event. It was really fun. We're planning homecoming and student government right now. It's the week of, it's due September 20th through September 23rd. So we have some events going on that week. We have our lunchtime activities, our big homecoming game, big homecoming rally, and we're having a dance. The homecoming game is on September 23rd against Tokay. So we're very excited for that. We had our first ever senior sunrise at McNair on Saturday. It was a huge success, and a lot of people came out. It was very fun to collaborate with all of the students for the class of 2017. On August 19th, we had our club rush, and it was fun to sign up for different clubs, see what the different clubs have to offer. So that was fun. Our back to school night was August 18th, and all went well. The parents got to talk to the teachers and see what kind of events we're gonna have for the term and just engage with all of the other students. And we had our first academic all-stars breakfast on Thursday, August 31st, and over 100 students attended. And it was a personal invite. If you had a GPA of 3.79 or higher, then you were invited to that breakfast. And now for academics, our CFIS grant, which is a college and career for every student. It is in the second year at McNair, and the program consists of sophomores and freshmen who have a GPA range of 2.0 to 3.0. And at the end of the program, the GPA was a 3.25 for all of the students involved in that program. And our HOSA students, they are taking the medical science and terminology course at McNair, and it is articulated with Delta, and you're able to earn college credits, up to 3 college credits for the semester if you pass the course. And we had 26 students participate in that. And then fall sports, we're in our preseason right now, and we're excited for that. And then we have our first McNair blood drive on Friday, and we're very excited. We have a lot of people that have signed up, and I myself, I am looking forward to participating in that and donating blood.
Have you given blood before?
No, I have not.
Well, all you do is just sit there. Very, very good. Mr. Nava?
Yeah, I just had one question on Michael. You have, Merced coming up, McNair Merced?
Yes.
Yeah, you won your second game, didn't you?
Yes, we did. When
Yeah, that was a high scoring game, like
Yes.
58 to something, 13 or something.
Somewhere around there.
Very good. So you will be a good representative on the SJAA, which has 5 teams at this point, and hopefully that McNair will be one of the top teams in that conference. Another thing that I wanted to mention is you have a wellness things that are happening at McNair. This is after school, and that's on Wednesday, September 21st from 3:30 to 4:30 at the Culinary Arts Cafe. And the wellness is put in by the nutritional people, and I think it's very well for the students, community people to attend and inform themselves of how well they're going to eat, how well that they could be as far as in the future physically fit.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, one more question, Mr. Stallworthy, did you go on the rock wall?
No, I didn't. I didn't have the chance to go on the rock wall.
I think it was a wise choice. I've never been on a rock wall, but I don't know if I'm going to do it. How about the senior sunrise?
Yes, I was there. It was fun. We got to eat donuts and just play games. And we actually have a class pet, or student government, and we got to take our class pet out and just engage with other students. It was fun.
You have to tell us what your class pet is.
We have a hamster. His name is Hammy.
Hammy?
Yes.
Very nice.
Hamby?
Hammy.
Hammy.
Yes.
Okay.
The thing got a hammy.
No, I just said, it was Hamby, I had a football player named
Well, that's terrific. Very nice reports, the two of you. So our agenda is short, so if you could stay with us for the rest of the meeting, we'd appreciate it. Wonderful. Comments from employee groups. Who would like to go first? Michelle?
I think I'll be the one speaking again. Good evening, President Freitas, members of the board, Dr. Washer. We're happy to have been at the bargaining table, and we look forward to the next scheduled day. Attract and retain highly qualified teachers. Well, there has been a lot said recently and much discussion as to why a teacher would stay with LUSD. We know salary and benefits are at the top of the list, but you might be surprised by some, and I think my colleague Ann Garcia has told you about some of them. Teachers want to be treated as a professional, supported on their site. Things such as balanced classes, no combos, being part of a team, helping to make decisions that affect their school sites and classrooms, professional support, especially when calling for help from either admin, colleagues, or departments, for example, calling special ed. I know as a new teacher, I was helped by a designated mentor teacher. Later, we have a PAR program where whether you were a new teacher, a teacher who changed grade levels or subjects, you could get assistance. We all want to be the best teacher. We just want to teach. We want to work together to make it possible. Let's look at changes and reflect on best practices. But adding one more thing to my day, something needs to go. Our day is full, and I dare say that on any given day, you will be challenged and hard-pressed to find at any of your school sites teachers not there before school and after school to get the job done. There are many passionate and dedicated teachers in Lodi Unified. You want to retain them? Let's talk about what they need. Let's have conversations about those changes. Tonight, I want to reflect again on what was reported earlier. There is a sub shortage. As you heard at the last board meeting, there was a need to pay lifeguards more money in order for them to want to work in Lodi. Well, we asked the same, that the district look at subpay being increased for teachers in order to attract subs to take assignments. Last Friday, the district had a math training and several teachers got called back for lack of a sub, or no sub had picked up the assignment at all. The teachers believe training is valuable. There are several things to point out. First, it was a 3-day weekend. We believe that there needs to be foresight and extreme planning on these training dates. We are always short subs, so we need to plan for that. Illnesses occur. We know that. We need to plan for that. Teachers would like options doing professional development. After school, many have other obligations like family or second jobs. They may prefer training during the day. Can we look at accommodations for multiple training options instead of one choice? This is not just for math, but all the offered trainings, including special ed. We would also appreciate those administrators. We want to acknowledge them, those who stepped up and took a class while the teacher was at the training last Friday. We also want to acknowledge those teachers who took on extra students. We know that this is not the best situation. It's not what is best for students. But what is best for students is instruction with lessons written by their teachers. To change subjects, I'm concerned when I'm hearing about tonight Williams Act. If we are receiving 100% approval because there's no complaints, or we're only looking at one site, I think we really need to look at, is that really judging everything? I can tell you at an elementary level, I was grateful for the money last year to be spent in classroom. It was the first time in several years that there was money to conduct live science experiments. Granted, textbook adoption is coming around. We're on the downslope. We don't have a lot of those materials left for every class. So I really am questioning, and I hope that I'm wrong, that all of those Williams Act issues, it's not just high school science materials, but also elementary. So maybe we can look at that in the future. Next, we do appreciate your board policy on fingerprinting. We really do. We want those that are working with our students to be screened, that they can be around our students, and we feel safe with that. I understand why all volunteers must go through the district as the reporting agency, as it was explained to me. I understand that the district as the notifying agency must be the place where they get their fingerprinting. However, there are concerns with fingerprinting. First, there is a limited number of slots each day for staff to complete the live scan. If this is our policy and we want our teachers, our classrooms to be open to parents and volunteers coming in, we need to add additional staff time or come up with some kind of solution to have more people be able to be processed through the live scan. We also think there's possible inequity here. We've heard that some families do not have the extra income to pay the $25 to be live scanned. I know at my site, I'd be hard pressed for some of those families to come up with it when they're waiting to buy that extra pair of shoes for Johnny, whose shoes are outgrown or falling apart. I understand that some Title I schools have vouchers. I haven't made a call. I haven't heard back, but I'm sure I'll get an answer as to which Title I schools, how many vouchers, is there a limit? I'm sure with budget, there has to be some kind of limit if the district is paying for those. I've worked my entire career at a Title I school. The policy is new, but I've never heard of having to be at the district to be fingerprinted. I've never heard of vouchers. That would have helped parents at my site come in to work in the classrooms. Because who's on the front line telling their parents what the policy is? Teachers. Teachers are unaware of all of the restrictions and requirements for this. So let's inform the school sites, inform the teachers. Let's try to make this not prohibitive to some sites and some families. Since it is the teachers usually explaining the policy, let's get it out to each and every site. We continue to discuss the challenges and changes that we've seen by the use of common planning time. Your teachers are professionals and hope that the district will allow teachers to meet together on common planning day by subject and/or by grade level and collaborate. Many years ago, the contract language was changed in order to give teachers the time to meet together, for example, to discuss and prepare adopted curriculum and assessments. They should not be listening 45, 75, or the entire 90 minutes to their site administrator or district staff development items to be talked about. It is not intended to be a staff meeting. They should not be given a list of questions and answered and share out, partner share. This is their collaboration time. They should not be forced or corralled in a library to listen to a speaker from the County Office of Ed. Watch Keenan videos. Not that I don't think, and my understanding, I think we need information on exactly what videos, because risk management gave me a different story than what I heard tonight. We need the site admin's leadership to give the freedom and the professional time to collaborate. Your teachers want to talk about what's meaningful to them. This is giving them time to be the best, especially with the new curriculum. New ELA, ELD adoptions with minimal training. It does not respect the professional who we want to be. We want to meet together, strategize, and share what has worked and what hasn't. I don't think anyone here would say that after attending the one day of training that they were prepared to teach the curriculum. Yeah, I have no takers on that one. We don't want to go back to days of teaching in isolation. We know collaboration is powerful. We make our students learn how to collaborate. Let us collaborate. Let teachers be the professionals. I have spoken with Mrs. Lampkin and have a meeting scheduled this week with Dr. Washer, and we do look forward to September 14th being a day of collaboration across the district. And in closing, I briefly mentioned at the last board meeting, Leah's support of Prop 55. I have emailed you and left some flyers since most of you I did not get to hand it to after our last board meeting. I believe that we can accomplish anything we set our minds to, but we need to do it working together. I look forward, along with my colleagues, to make LUSD the destination for not only academic success, but a place where teachers want to stay to teach. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Other employee groups, Deborah? Sean will shake your head. All right. Thank you very much from our employee group representatives. Comments from board members? Would any board members like to give some comments at this time?
Yeah, just one little comment. So just to thank Tim for the focus that you guys put out. My gosh, I know exactly what's happening in the district in a lot of areas, from nutrition to transportation to everything that M&O and all those kinds of things. Very concise, and I thank you for telling us that. And I know we have some And transportation, we used to have 16 substitutes, we were down to 4. We relocated the office, we got 2, so now we got a new office, so we can train more, and hopefully we get more in that respect. But thanks again for the focus. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Other comments from board members? Ms. Castle?
Just very briefly to our student representatives. I wanted to really commend you for your leadership. I can see why you were both elected by your schools, and what you told us tonight is your leadership on display. So, Ms. LeBaron, the inclusiveness of what you're doing for the freshman class, that's wonderful. And the other thing, reaching out and recognizing teachers and students as you're doing, great idea. And Mr. Stallworth, I love how you are emphasizing academics and honoring people for excelling in academics. So thank you both for being such good leaders. We do appreciate that. And Michelle, I would ask Dr. Washer, we of course want to encourage parents to work in the classroom. So could you give us kind of a heads up on the situation with the vouchers, the staffing backlog of the live scans and so forth? And then I would just like to say, as the older retired teacher, there is great value in collaboration.
I would echo those comments. Thank you, Ms. Castle. Mr. Womack?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, some of this goes back. I did a number of back to school night visits, were very interesting. A number of schools. I won't list them all, but there was several. Plus, I went to Bear Creek College and Career Night. It was a tremendous. It was unbelievable. I thought we were in one place. It was just that crowd. I realized that was one of 2 huge places that were crowded. A lot of interest there and a lot of representation from all over, and that was very good event. So again, congratulations to all those involved in that. I think it's interesting tonight that the ROTC came up, because something's kind of run parallel with that is in the newspaper recently was the approval of a criminal justice academy at Stockton Unified School District. And I think that's something we might want to also look at in the future, because there's a lot of careers out there. It's not being a police officer necessarily, but evidence technician, these CSI and all that kind of stuff. A number of things that are available in there. And so I'd like to see us, in the future kind of look at that. And it came up once before and it kind of got dropped for some reasons and what have you. But what I want to talk about mostly is what I do in my regular job is I work with youth who are in trouble. Usually I get a referral from the district attorney, the public defender, the probation department, and these youngsters usually run an age anywhere from 13 to 22, and they have a number of myriad of issues going on. All of them have had problems in school, and if you talk to them individually, they'll tell you they just didn't like to be there for various reasons. And so what's happened is what we've seen in some of these discipline cases is that oftentimes, for whatever reason
combined, by the time the youth is officially 11th grade or 12th grade, they have absolutely no hope of graduating. They do not have enough units to graduate, but we keep them there. And then we don't graduate them. So what's happened is, I think, a great opportunity is run by the National Guard, starting at Sharp Depot in January, is called the Challenge Academy, Discovery Challenge Academy. It's similar to one run in San Luis Obispo called the Grizzly Academy. And the target specifically are kids who have dropped out or are at high risk of dropping out. But instead of dropping out, or instead of going to school with no hope of graduating, they can go to that school, and it's actually a live-in academy for 5.5 months. They do use the military model, because a lot of these youngsters also, the ones I work with, they don't have a lot of structure. And some of them never had any structure. So it's new where they get to be in this academy. Critical part of that as well is that they have a mentor. So the mentor is part of this along with the parents during that 5.5 months, and then they commit to a year after post-graduation to be with that child to keep that success going. And that success could be anything from going on to college, it could be
going to a training program, could be military, could be a number of things. But what they learn mainly in there is structure. And the education they get during that 5.5 months is intense. They can recover 62 credits in 5.5 months. They're all accredited teachers to the Office of Education, so it's not like the military conducting these classes. And so they look at them specifically about what their needs are, what credits they need to recover, and that's the structure for them during that 5.5 months. It's an awesome program. I had an opportunity to go to San Luis Obispo. I probably already talked about this, but I'll talk about it again. A couple of months ago, and I interviewed 7 different youth who were from this area. Some from Stockton, Sacramento, and Modesto. And they had the same story. They just didn't like going to school. And so when they were out of school, they got in trouble. They hang out with the wrong people. They got involved in things, and pretty soon, education wasn't even on the radar. And then they got into this academy, and many of them had a 0.5 or a 1.5 GPA before. We're getting 3.5, 3.7, 4.0 during that 5.5 months. Why? Because they had the structure, they had the right teacher, the right environment, and so it's really an exciting time. So I have provided Dr. Washer's email to the commandant there from the Challenge Academy, who I've dealt with a lot. I actually have a student in there that's going to start in January. And what I'm hoping is we can talk about that, because perhaps in the process, parents just need to know that, yeah, the kid's being disciplined and maybe he's being expelled, he has not enough credits, but here's an opportunity if they want to go to this academy. And there's usually a waiting list. So there is a lot of interest in that. So now it's right here in our own backyard. It's at Sharp Army Depot starting in January. So I'm personally very excited about it, and excited that I have one of my clients who's going to be in the first class. I think that's enough.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Womack. And I echo those comments also. Mr. Vice President Epperly.
Thank you. First off, students, very nice reports. It's always a pleasure hearing what's going on at the schools, and you represented them well, and you presented yourselves well. Good job, thank you. Also, the college and career night you've heard before, it was a huge success. I'll just leave it at that. It was great. Quite a variety of different booths to take advantage of and look at. Last meeting, I had mentioned some concerns I had about the start of school, and one of them, kind of the main points, was the large number of teacher vacancies at the start of the school. And I mentioned them as a future agenda item, so I'm sure it's on the radar as coming to us as a report item for ideas and options to evaluate and kind of at least start the conversation to do some kind of resolution to that. So my question would be, Dr. Washington, do you have any idea of? Expert. Okay, very good, thank you. There were several things that I brought up, and that was kind of like one of the main ones, was the teacher vacancy, but there are some others about classroom readiness, whether it's cleanliness or good repair, so that it's a welcoming environment for the kids and a great teaching environment for the teachers. When you get that combined, I think that, you know, it's a good recipe for success. And along with that, I had also mentioned technology, and that you know, things need to be up and running, and we all know technology, there are glitches here and there to be expected, to get it, but there are some things also that I think we could do internally to make things flow better. And one of them was at the last district technology committee, it was brought up that some of our long-term subs had really no access to emails or to their grade books and so on and so forth, so that the parents can't even log in and get anything, even though we tell them at back to school night that ability is there. So what we discovered at that meeting is that if you were a teacher hired in time, you went to the teacher boot camp, and that gave you all that information about your website, how to get on your emails, and all those kinds of things. But if you were hired after that, or after the start of school, it was kind of really kind of get it on your own. And one agent, one department maybe thought that the other department was doing it, but it wasn't a very coherent, informational, I guess, help to the new teacher. Because there's a lot when you're, let's say, a long-term sub and you're walking into a system like that, you want as much help as you can. So at the technology piece, when that comes back and we discuss it, maybe we'll find some solutions to those for those late hires. Along with the teacher vacancy, to me, one of the large concerns about the start of school would be students overflowing, and that first 3 weeks of school, kids moving, courses getting collapsed, just a lot of turmoil. And I think it's good that we bring those difficulties forward, find out how we can minimize it. I don't know if we're going to eliminate it, probably not, but let's try. We should. But at least we can start the conversation, start the process and the steps to make these things smoother for not only our employees, but especially for our children. Moving around, and so I like those things, and I'll talk to Dr. Washer and kind of get those kind of defined a little bit better for you, so you kind of know what information I'm looking for, like the numbers of kids, where they're from, where they went to, and why, that kind of thing. So that whole start of school piece, I'm really concerned about, and I think we can solve a lot of it. So let's talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from the board, Mr. Neely?
Thank you, Mr. Chris. Student reps, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming and spending your Tuesday evening with us. And I invite you back here in a couple weeks, okay? All right. Collaboration, let's talk about that real quick, because I absolutely agree with Michelle on it. I remember when, at times when we had scheduled collaboration, yes, there would be things that, started off and took away from the collaboration time, but also one of the things that got me that we were given forms to fill out, and the circle of inquiry. Oh, I love that term. Army would use called the problem solving process.
Yes.
Education, we got to call it the circle of inquiry. And we spent a lot of time, and so we'd always have to flip to see who was going to fill out forms, and it's turn them back in. Collaboration is valuable time, and it's something we just have to give them. We just have to give that to the teachers, and we don't need to structure it. They'll find a way to use it. We just let them go. And the other thing I think is along those lines, I think is great, is visiting other classrooms. I mean, my God, that was one of the big things I got when I got to go see other teachers at work. I found out some of them knew more than I did. Shocked. It was a lot of fun. It was really an educational process. So I'd like to see us do some of those things. Dr. Washer, my book program. Wow. As I remember, you're the one that brought that up, aren't you? You brought it to Got Kids. And what a winner. Thank you so much for doing it. Got Kids supported it, but it was your program. Thank you very much for that. College and Career Night, everybody who was involved in that, all staff, teachers, everybody. Huge success. Thank you very much. I want to talk real quick about our move to one-to-one. We've invested a lot of time in this. We've invested a lot of money in it. I've been hearing some good things, and I also have been hearing that some people aren't quite on board with it yet. So maybe, we need to continue to follow up here just to make sure that everybody's getting what they need in order to implement that properly. Mr. Hurley, great seeing you again, sir. I always like seeing you come to the board. You always bring me some interesting stuff. The issue about the long-term subs, it's terrible. It absolutely is. And of course, one of the reasons that those subs are moving is because of the 30-day sub from the state. They can't teach in one classroom any longer in 30 days. Now, that's crazy. I mean, so you're gonna take and you're gonna put a substitute in there, and you don't have anybody to fill the position, but you gotta move that substitute in 30 days and put somebody else in there. So, and as far as your school having 4 subs, well, there are certain things that we can work on, and there are certain things, you know, that are kind of beyond us. Sutherland, I love Sutherland. You know, you guys are great out there, but truly it is a Title I school, and it's a little bit tougher out there sometimes. The transfer process affects Sutherland. It affects Sutherland a great deal. So that when everybody is shuffled around and everything is said and done, that's when you've got those vacant positions. And right now, with the lack of subs and the lack of teachers statewide, it's impacting your school greatly. I'm really saddened to hear that we have 2 combo classes being taught by long-term sub. There's nothing your principal can do about it. All those jobs are selected and transfers are made. And he and those of us right here can't do anything about this. Now, it pains me to say that to you. But don't stop bringing us your issues, okay? I really do appreciate it. Combo classes, district, kudos. You've been cutting those down and cutting those down. I still think that we do the best we can with combo classes. I think that under the circumstances, we're doing a good job on it, but let's face it, when you have a new teacher or a long-term sub who doesn't even know one curriculum, who's got to come in and teach 2 curriculums, it's tough. But you guys have done a good job in cutting the numbers down, so thank you very much. New classes, boy, we've been getting a lot of new classes out in high school. I think that's fantastic. The district has taken the directive from the board and run with that. Mr. Womack, you had talked about an academy. I mean, there's Stockton also has a Pacific Law Academy, which is pretty slick. They've got, and they do a lot of mock trial things and all that kind of stuff. It's a great thing. Maybe we ought to look at that. And I'm not going to give my comments on the start of school. I actually think that when you've got over 28,000 students, over 50 sites spread out over 350 square miles, it's a tough job to all of a sudden go from no kids to 28,000 in one day. We've got to continue to do the best we can on it. And there's been a lot of successes on it too. So, and I want to thank you guys for all the effort that you did put on that. I'm going to close up here by saying it was on September 1st was my 25th anniversary for retirement from the military after 20 years. And I'll tell you, and this is the reason I bring this up, it's the ROTC. That absolutely changed my life. For those of you who don't know it, I just barely graduated Lodi High. I almost didn't get out of here. That's because I found partying much more interesting than school at the time. Went into the military thinking I knew everything, went off to Vietnam, and boy, was that an eye-opener. And it absolutely changed my life. I am so glad that we're getting this ROTC program. Like I said, we've got to watch it. You can't just start it and think it's going to run itself, because it's not. So we've got to be careful at that. I plan on spending some time out there to see what's going on. So with that, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Neely.
Well, say that you're gonna outrank the sergeant there too. So.
All right, well, yeah.
Mr. Falcon, yes.
The only comments I have is that it's been made by that's board members, so I won't repeat what the good things that they have said. I will say that the articulate conversation of our student reps is wonderful. So thank you.
And I would echo that and all my board's comments here tonight. And I would thank everyone who participated in tonight's meeting for their comments. We have 2 items, report items that are on the agenda here tonight. First being district properties. Mr. Hearn? Tell us where our land is.
I hope you got some better map you put up.
You know what, I've been staring at it for 2 hours, and I think I finally figured it out, so. I think there's probably a reason I ended up in law. Not
The address on the
surveying.
There are no addresses, they're just parcel numbers. It's just dirt. But the request was, probably wasn't completely understood when it came to us and we wanted to know where our sites. So we did include where we do actually own physical sites. What we did, and as a supplement, and we have them back to back, and also each board member, is that we have what was done in the master facility plan, which gives you all of the demographics that you possibly want to know, and maybe even a little bit more. So I thought the best way is if there were specific questions or concerns that the board had about either potential growth in the district and not quite understanding, particularly Mr. Neely, I know you put this on the agenda, so if you have any questions, we certainly can answer those for you.
My concern is that the growth in our area, we've got, in Lodi, we've got new housing development going out by Costco, we've got one out by Ray's. North Stockton is continuing to grow all around the area there. And so where are our 3 sites out? Just kind of describe to me what we've got.
I'll let Mr. Sun do that. He's more familiar with the actual locations.
Welcome, Mr. Sun.
President Freitas, members of the board, Dr. Wash is not here, but anyway. Yeah,
you know what? I think she's mad. I skipped her comments, further comments from the superintendent. So,
getting snacks.
So, yeah, I think it was.
Currently, we own 3 properties. One is Gander, and it's in Lodi area. Gander located South Lodi Avenue and just behind James Elliott.
Just behind what?
Behind James Elliott.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the location. It's about 12 acres, and originally was planned for a 12 for K-8 school site. Then we have 2 property located in North Stockton area. One is a Panosi by kind of west lane and 8 Mile Road corner, kind of behind McNear High School. At the, yeah, north side of McNear High School. And another also is.
That's a middle school site?
It's a 15 acre, originally was planned for a Academy High School. That's the location.
It's not quite large enough to be a middle school because you need about 25 to 30 acres for a middle school. It would make an excellent property for a large K-8.
Then we have a Bright. It's a Bright property. It's about 12 acres. We own it, and also in that area.
So like Sutherland?
Yeah, it's a North Sutherland and west side. West side of West Lane. In that corner. And those sites are basically based on the previous master plan, and those are the very developed. Based on the developers. They are putting a lot of houses in the area, now all stopped since 2008.
When we do look at the 3 sites, we think that the Gantner property would be the most likely one that we would have to consider because of the roadscape construction that's going on in that area. But again, that would be down the road quite a bit. We, at the K-6 level, we currently have 1,775 seats available. At the K-8 level, which is the smallest, it's 257 seats available. At middle school, and that's tight, and we're concerned about middle school down the road. We have 530 seats available. And at the comprehensive high schools, we have 1,516 seats available.
All right. And Orchard, which is out the Costco there. Isn't that a 900 student elementary school? That's what it was designed for?
Yes,
Yes.
Orchard is,
Yeah.
and,
And it's already at 881.
yeah.
Yeah, Orchard, also Silverwood, we're concerned about. Those are two schools that we would have to be concerned about. And again, the master plan addresses that. It does, consider expanding other schools, redistricting certain areas and so forth, and the possibility of having to build schools down the road.
Orchard currently, the loading capacity is 846. And right now, based on last year enrollment, they're 841 right now. Yeah, so they're about the borderline. So, you mentioned that the area behind Costco is Van Ruden Ranch. So that's just approved by the city of Lodi. They were putting possibly 288 units home, and generating about 81, possibly 80 elementary school kids. And those are in the enrollment. The attendance areas goes to Larson School.
And that's not
Yeah.
Costco,
Not
that's Walmart.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, behind Walmart.
Yeah.
Costco, Walmart.
No, yeah, I'm sorry, Van Ruden Ranch is behind the Walmart area. Yeah, and,
And how's Larson supposed to absorb that?
Larson right now is, capacity is 768, and they're about 736 right now. They are very, yeah. Most of the Lodi school is pretty much on the borderline right now.
Lodi is the most impacted side of the district for sure. And of course, it's always difficult because developers, of course, believe that they're going to build every house and fill them right away and so on and so forth, and we've seen what happens. So it's a difficult, we'll call it guessing game of where it's going to happen and how to adjust, and sometimes adjustment for a while is busing students, sometimes for a while it's having to redraw your boundary lines. There's difficult choices that you have to make. And then, as I said, as we do grow, and hopefully if we do have some new construction ability later on, then we may be building some schools.
Yeah. Mr. Heberly and I were talking earlier about the impact on middle schools. Seems like here in Lodi, we're strapped on. We've got the two middle schools. And Lodi Middle is, it's not going anywhere.
And again, that's going to be a decision that we're going to have to look at. I know that at one time, earlier boards were considering the K-8 concept. We've had discussions with this board that this isn't necessarily the way that we may want to go. We're certainly going to have to make that decision eventually because, as I said, to build a true middle school, you need a 25 to 30 acre site. And also, my guess would be somewhere around the $40 million area to build one.
All right, I just wanted to start having a discussion, maybe a little premature, but I want to keep this out.
No, thank you, Ms. Daly. Other comments from the board? Yes, Ms. Cassie.
The sanctuary site over by Trinity Parkway, wasn't that going to be the academy? Am I remembering that right? And so
That's a 15 acre site.
yeah, and so do we still own that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
That's Panusi.
That's,
Yes.
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 All right, you got to tell me where the names come from.
I only know one, and they named the one.
Ganner.
Yeah, that was Samuel Gannon. That was given the name that's what the school name would be by a long time before I was ever here. And I guess Warren was here. Were you here with them? Or
I'm not in this department.
No, not in his capacity. So that name was given to it several years ago.
I was here, but I don't remember who he was?
Lucy and the bride, they are just the property owner. They sold the property to us. We just use it, but it's not a school name. We just call it.
The Gander actually is a school name.
Gander is a school name. Yes.
Gotcha. Very good. And then I don't think one of the things that we've foreseen is those new apartments now that are going up on 99 and Murata.
That was brought on us very quickly by Stockton, unfortunately, but we do have capacity. It's going to be upper end apartments, so you're not going to see a lot of younger children there. But we do have capacity for that particular project.
We'll divide those up between Adams and Mosier and Davis? Or?
Those attendance area goes to Ansel Adams. And the middle school will be Murata Middle and Mania High School. They have 233 multifamily units. It's a common complex. So they are generating approximately 65 elementary school kids. Ansel Adams will be able to absorb, and the 19 middle school kids possibly.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Very nice. Thank you very much for this very important information. Carla, I skipped further comments from the superintendent.
Thank you. No further comments, Mr. President.
All right. I told them that's why you went out of the room, that you were upset. Yeah. And then our last report item, Ms. Katowski, Ms. Rolandro, welcome. We have a report on our LCAP 2015-2016 data review.
President Freitas, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, Mr. Melandro, really it's Mr. Melandro. He's here to give you the update on the results of our student achievement through the standardized tests through our LCAP. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you. Mr. Freitas, members of the board, Dr. Washer, I'm pleased to come and share this information with you this evening, but I would be remiss if I didn't share that this was a product of our entire ARE department, specifically Ms. Deborah Ladwig and Mr. Avi Atwal, who worked very hard to assist in putting this together, so I want to make sure I acknowledge them this evening. One of the things we shared earlier, and we'll do a report in the same manner, you'll notice anytime you see green, that means we met the LCAP goal, and red means we did not. And there's a lot more green on this report than there was on the previous report. So it's exciting to be able to move forward with that. Maybe.
You know, our PDFs in black and white. We don't have PowerPoint on our computer, so we can't see that.
Well, maybe we could talk to the director of technology to take care of that. Okay, how about I point at you, Tom?
It works.
Okay. As we move forward, one of the things we'll be sharing with you tonight are the changes in the Smarter Balance. We brought this before. We only had 1 year, so it was difficult to show growth in English language arts and math. We'll be bringing that to you tonight, as well as preliminary science data. The science data is what we're going to show first, and we had hoped in terms of proficiency to increase the percentage of students meeting proficiency, and indeed we did that. As we looked at all our students, we increased by 0.4%. However, in our two subgroups that we were looking to improve, English learners and low-income students, unfortunately, both of those decreased a bit. So we didn't meet that goal, but we did meet the overall percent for science. And just a reminder, the science results are not official yet. This is still preliminary for science. Then as we move into the Smarter Balanced assessments, the state assessments, we do now have information where we can compare 2014-15 to 2015-16. And we said that all students would increase percentage meeting proficiency, and we did that. We had a 3.6% increase in ELA district-wide. The interesting thing about that is statewide, the state actually decreased in that percentage where Lodi Unified increased. So we were pleased to be able to do that. Our low-income students also increased at a greater rate, which was our goal. They increased at a rate of 4%. So we did increase that as well. Our English learners, unfortunately, we had hoped to have them increase at a greater rate than our all students. They did increase by 1%, but they didn't increase at a greater rate. And at this point, I want to share with you why that is difficult. Because our English learners, as they reclassify, at the end of the year, the state takes that information and says, these students are no longer English learners at the end of the year. In June, they send all of our data. So all of our English learners that were in that group to begin with, all their scores that were associated with English learners before reclassification, once they're reclassified, they're not. So it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult to have that increase occur.
Yeah, we have about 4 conversations going on besides yours this morning. I apologize.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Neely. I think that's the first time anyone has ever said they had difficulty hearing me. So I appreciate that. I count this as a first. I'll mark it down in my notebook. Thank you. So again, that's why it becomes difficult for English learners to have that level of increase. We've done such an excellent job, as you'll see a little bit later, in reclassifying our English learners. Next, we take a look at math, and we wanted to increase the percentage of all students. We did that. We had a 2.6% increase in our math, so we met that LCAP goal. Our low-income students increased by 2.8%, which was, again, greater than the overall number, so we met that goal as well. Unfortunately, our English learners dropped a little bit. They dropped at 0.5%, so we did not meet that goal. But again, overall in math and for our low income, we were able to meet that goal, so we did have some green there, which we were excited about. Next, as we take a look at our English learners, we wanted to increase the percentage growing 1 or more CELT levels each year by 2%. We didn't meet that goal. However, we did increase by 1.5%. So we were very close to meeting that goal and moving those students up 1 CELT level each year. So again, we were close and we did show growth, but not the amount that we had hoped to have via the LCAP goal. Next, reclassification. We're very excited about this, and unfortunately, we reclassified so many students that I think it affected our EL group on the earlier assessments, but we had hoped to increase by 1%, and we increased by 6.8%, the percent of our English learners who were reclassified. We were up above 10% of our English learners who were reclassified as fluent English proficient. So we very much met that goal and went beyond that. As those students are reclassified, they're able to take a lot more elective classes, additional AP classes as well. So that's a very exciting figure to be able to present this evening. Next, we wanted to increase the reclassification rate of our long-term English learners by 2%. In 2014-15, we didn't get a long-term English learner list from the feds and from the state because of the lack of data the previous year. What we can share with you, as of 2015-16, you can see that we did have a large number of our English learners who were long-term English learners who were increased. We had about a 10% increase, and those are students who have been in the program for 6 or more years and have not shown much growth. Our students now are beginning to show that. So our long-term English learners are being reclassified as well. They're moving out of that category, which is, again, is very exciting for us.
You said that's students with 6 years or more?
Yes. And there are a couple of other criteria. One is that they have not grown in 2 years, so their CELT over 2 years either remained the same or dropped. So we're hoping that that increased, and we're beginning to see that. Next, we take a look at, we needed to increase the number of students with qualified scores in our AP exam by 3%. We increased it, but only by 2.6. So I think as we look and as we move through this, we see that maybe we didn't meet the goal, but we're heading in that right direction. We're moving toward that. So we did, again, increase by 2.6%, so we're on our way. We just didn't quite get there. Next, we had a goal to increase AP enrollment for English learners by 2%. unfortunately, that number dropped. And again, as we said before, when you look at the higher end students in terms of Sept level and English learners who reclassified, it makes this part even more difficult. Low income students, however, we wanted to increase their AP enrollment by 2%. It actually increased by over 4%. So we definitely met the goal in terms of our low income students. Overall, if that wasn't a goal, but in general, overall, in terms of all students, we also increased by 3% the number of all students who were enrolling in those AP classes. Next, we had a goal to increase the number of ready students in ELA or math by 5%, and that was measured by the EAP. And in the past, before 2014-15, that had been an extra test that students had to take. Now, it's simply a part of the normal Smarter Balanced English Language Arts and math tests. So all of our 11th graders take that. So we noticed that we increased, in terms of the ELA, we were able to increase by 20%. So our students being college ready based on that particular assessment. Now, what does that mean to be college ready on that assessment? That just doesn't mean that they met the standard. They had to get a score that was exceeded standards in order for them to count as being college ready on the ELA. We have the same thing for mathematics. That same to increase by 5%. We were able to increase by 9%. So we met this goal as well. So those students who are college ready based on the EAP did increase. Next, we have those students who were meeting the A through G requirements. And our goal was to increase those number of students by 3%. Unfortunately, we saw a dramatic decrease in that. That may be attributed to a number of things, including our students taking other types of classes rather than just those classes that meet the A through G requirements. Next, we hope to increase the number of students who were taking the CTE classes. We did decrease by not quite 3%, but let me remind you that we had a significant increase last year. It's tough when you had a large increase like we did last year, it's tough to maintain that. So we dropped a little bit, but we still have a good percentage of our students who are enrolling in those classes, especially since there are more of those classes available. All of that had to do with academics and improving achievement. We now want to move on to section 2.3, which is a positive and supportive learning environment. And one of those things was to investigate the monitoring program for our middle school student dropouts. Well, thanks to the state for one thing, I know we don't say that very often, but they actually have a monitoring program. We're utilizing that as well. And in terms of attendance, we've had difficulty with attendance in terms of monitoring students who are missing a number of days, whether that's 3 days, 5 days, 10 days. But in the ARIES system, our CWA advisors now generate letters via ARIES. So we do have those reports, we do have that information. And it's not in this particular goal, but when we take a look at our chronic absenteeism rate in the district, it dropped 7.7%, or 7%, excuse me. And we also increased our enrollment. So to have an increased enrollment and a decrease in that chronic absenteeism, whether those students are missing 10 or more days, that's very positive. And we'll see how that affects also ADA in just a few slides later. So I think we're monitoring it now. We're better able to see what those numbers are. And so we do have that in place, and that is with our student information system of ARIES. Now, I know last year we brought forward what happened to our attendance rate, and it dropped. However, it came back up this year. We had a 0.62% increase in our ADA. Now, I was prepared because last year I was not. When you asked me what that meant in terms of numbers, and Dr. Washer was furiously on her calculator figuring that out. You don't have to do that tonight. We had it covered. Yeah, that's right, mental math. But that change resulted in over $471,000 that we gained back. So we're, again, keeping that ADA up. It sounds like a small percent, but when you translate that over a district as large as we are, with those numbers, that is money that came back to us that we had lost in the past. Over 2 years, we're still showing a little bit of a drop, But again, this past year, we did see an increase in the ADA. So that was exciting as we're looking to meet that goal. This I mentioned a little bit more earlier, monitoring our middle school dropouts. We have so few dropouts that it's difficult to put a percent with this. So just that we have the monitoring and that is in place. We did increase a little bit with 7th grade, decrease a little bit with 8th grade, but when you're talking about 7 students, 13 students, it doesn't take many students to affect that. Okay, next, moving up to high school dropouts and high school graduation rates. A reminder that what I'm sharing tonight, as I said last year as well, we're a year behind. The state figures always come a year later. However, we wanted to decrease the dropout rate, and we did so between 2014-15 and 15-16 by 4.4%. So another green, we met that particular goal. And usually what comes along with that is the next slide, which was to increase graduation rates. And yes, indeed, we did increase graduation rate overall by 4.8%, almost 5% across the district, with nearly every high school increasing the graduation rates. So again, another LCAP goal that we met, more green that we didn't see last year, showing that we are making progress. Now, again, when we look at the positive learning environment, that also is affected by our suspension rate. Now, we've said that we wanted to decrease suspension rate by 1%. Very difficult to do when you look at the small number of students that we suspend. We did suspend 0.4% less, but when you get down to those small percents, like 5% of students suspended, it's very difficult to make an entire percent decrease. So we didn't meet the goal, but we do see that our suspension rate is moving in the correct direction. We did decrease that suspension rate. Along with that, the expulsion rate. Our goal is to maintain an expulsion rate of 2% or lower. We're down to 0.05%. So we definitely maintain that, and we decrease that expulsion rate for our students. We're keeping our students in school, in classes, where that's where they can learn. They don't learn if they're outside of our environment. So in general, as we take a look at what we've gone through, we see a lot more green. We met a lot more goals this year, and it's nice to have the data with Smarter Balanced to be able to support that across the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lando, for that wonderful presentation. Comments from the board?
Randy, I could hear everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. I appreciate that.
He has a master's in here.
Yeah. Former teachers often do.
There you go.
Other comments from the board? Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. President. Randy, thanks so much for the report. Fantastic. It's good information. And, you know, I never thought about the whole thing with the English language learners. The better you do, the worse your statistics are going to look in the long run, because you're moving them out of the English language learner. And those are your highest scoring students, because those are the ones that can read better and all that. So that's an interesting situation there. Also, thank you for that. You sent me the spreadsheet with all the schools on it. I appreciate that. I like to play with data and move it around and all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing that. I did ask Dr. Walsher a question about how, are there any state goals, the old API kind of thing? And the answer was nothing's been established yet. I would like to see us set some goals. I think principals ought to be setting goals myself on where they want to be at. Schools should get together and work out where they want to go. Got to have a goal. It's hard to hit a target if you can't see it. So the thing is you put that goal up and everybody looks at it. Everybody understands it.
They are.
I would love to see that in the future. And it's not, you know, we're not going to step on anybody for not reaching their goal. I mean, my gosh, hopefully your goals are high and they're tough to make, because that's what you want. But anyway, that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Other comments from the board? Ms. Castle?
Just real quickly, thank you for all the work, and Deborah, your involvement as well. It was, as you said, Randy, was more green, And that's terrifically good news. And when you think of each child that was in that green column, it makes it even better. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Definitely echo those comments. And very good. All right, well, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. Very informative.
Thank you.
Go green. Board Advisory Committee reports. Do any committees wish to report here tonight?
I just want to say that we continue to have a problem getting stock together for advisory meeting. And one of the things that I'd like to see us somehow figure out, I don't know, but I know that it's frustrating. It is frustrating when we can't even have a meeting. There are issues we need to discuss, that's all.
It's election day. Go back, some of those people might be able to weigh out, that's what's happening.
I think
The city council is always correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's been 2 years this way.
Yeah, well, we're trying to catch up.
Future agenda items. Do board members have any suggestions for future agenda items? Very good, thank you.
I think we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Nog, for that motion. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Student vote. She supports this.
I don't know.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Just a thought. Because I thought, I'm saying.
I got stuck with my.
I hear you.
Yeah, I got you.
Got the money left for everyone. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
You got just on my list.
You heard about Thursday night? But if anyone wants to come, be sure to send somebody there who recognizes. I'll forward you the. See you, buddy. All right. Thank you very, very much.
Don't call me, I'll call you.
Yes.
Okay. Nice meeting.
I got your birthday.
Oh, yes.
I got, we were babysitting two birthdays. And so. I hope she's there tonight, because it was after 5. Yeah.
I can be on that as the young manager. I'm not sure what to do with that.
And really, they're.
Yeah.
We wonder, it was very chatty conversation. Seems like everybody wants to.
You gotta go.
I'm gonna do these joint ventures.
Have yourself a meeting.
It's everybody. So, you know, but, yeah, if something comes up, I'll, definitely.
Yeah, do you know the next 2 weeks?
They're very fluid. It shouldn't be quite so bad now because both plans and, but.
Oh, well, there you go.
She,
Listen to you.
Joanne still works. Their staff.
Television with 2 men.
Yeah. They're actually, they're meeting, I don't know, regularly. One time, a long time. Are there any first people in this?
Right, yeah.
Because everybody, Bob, because we've known each other. And it was great. Did you ask Michelle?
No, I was gonna ask her tonight.
Yeah, so please let me know if anything new comes up.
So money competition for it.
Oh, yes, everywhere.
Well, thanks for calling.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so.
We're just chopped liver.
Parent. Parent.
Well, no, that's
Okay, so this Thursday, early in the day.
okay.
Discount early in the day. So.
Your neighbor.
No, we're gonna meet early.
They did,
Well, you wanna go talk?
Where's
Where do you wanna go?
What about Joe? This Thursday.
Okay, all right. I'll leave it at my calendar. I didn't even, I just wanted to ask you, are you on the eighth at like 3 o'clock or something? For the open? The eighth, I have a meeting. Oh, I have, we have. We got this, that's in the 20th. Ours is today. I think they're pulling it out this week.
Okay.
All right, so that's what I'll see you Thursday.
See you Thursday.
Okay, let me check my email. Okay, then. And I'll, okay, yeah. I hear about that. So, but I'll let you know. I think. Yeah. And then. Oh. See, I was gonna walk that way, and stop at the door going, oh, I have everything there. I heard you.